All right, excellent afternoon to all those who are watching us across the states in Nigeria. I'm saying welcome, welcome. Yes, when we want to wake up to our powers, our potentials, and possibilities is the question I'm putting out there. Is it after when we're gone, or do we want to use us as women even when we realize that our roles in the world are even before we're birthed, in terms of working and fighting for those roles in the society? Again, I say the first step to all of this is education and action. And I say welcome again to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. And let me use this medium to say Happy International Women's Day in advance to all the women across the globe. You are on another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. And I remain your convener, your chief host, Atanda-Owo. Yes, I love my last name so much. But guys, diving into on this day in history segment, because I know that, the Maiduguri bombings were just one in a series of attacks carried out, by Boko Harams in the region, which has been a, hotbed of the group's activity. Let's get to do or hear more on this day in history segment. Stay with me. I'll be right back.
March 7th, 2015, Maiduguri, the capital of Nigeria's northeastern state of Borno, was rocked by a series of deadly suicide bombings carried out by the extremist group Boko Haram. The attacks occurred at 4 separate locations in the city, including a busy market and a mosque, leaving 54 people dead and 143 others injured. The Maiduguri bombings were just one in a series of attacks carried out by Boko Haram in the region, which has been a hotbed of the group's activity. The attacks caused widespread panics and raised concerns about the ability of the Nigerian government to contain the insurgency. The Nigerian government has been criticized for its handling of the Boko Haram insurgency, with many accusing it of being slow to respond to the threat and failing to protect civilians. The international community has also been involved in efforts to combat the group, with the United States, France, and other countries providing military and logistical support to the Nigerian government at the time.
All right, many thanks for staying with us. Just unfortunate that on this day in history segment, Nigerians have rested from terrorism. Yes, since the heat of the elections and the campaign activities. This is to give us an idea that those behind these challenges or behind this challenge that Nigerians are going through are the ones struggling to be in the corridor of power. Yes, I'm saying so because with all that has happened with our on this day in history segment and the fact that there's some rest in the country right now just shows that it's the people who are struggling to be in the corridor of power that are actually behind this. On this note, it's important for us to quickly get a quick message from our sponsors. Those that put me on this platform, please we'll be right back. Stay with us. All right, welcome to Real Talk with Kike, the show that delves into the real issues that affect our everyday lives. And of course, today I'll be discussing International Women's Day from the angle of leadership, politics, and embracing equity for women across the globe. Being that there has been progress thus far, I must actually put that out there, but we still have a long way to go. Women are still underrepresented in leadership positions, and of course, we need to do more to encourage women to participate in politics and also support them when they do. We also need to actually address the cultural and societal barriers that holds women, old women from, being in that corridor of power. So today, I have a special guest, a woman of politics, substance, and of course, a mogul in the oil and gas sector. I think it's important for us to quickly look at our guest profile video and stay tuned. I'll be back. All right, welcome to the show, Mrs. Princess. I need to have that, Mrs. Princess. Ifeanyiwa Akerele, many thanks for being on the show today. How are you doing today, ma? You look really radiant.
I do? Thank you.
Yes, you do. You do. How are you today, ma'am?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
All right, many thanks for being on the platform today.
Thank
and
you.
of course, I think it's important for us to just dive straight to the topic at hand. And I think that I would like to start from the angle of political leaders, because I know that as a political leader yourself, an advocate for women's rights, and of course, what's representation of women as well in the political sector. I need to ask you, what does the International Women's Day actually means to someone like you, especially when it comes to our Nigerian factor today, that is the Nigerian women? How does this theme, embracing equity, apply to women in Nigeria in particular?
Well, first of all, the International Women's Day, I'm so glad it's being celebrated with a lot of vigor now. It wasn't like this, but it's growing. Thank God for that. But I still don't feel the impact is being felt yet. It's like, it's just one day, everybody gets together, you bring certain people to talk, and then tomorrow everything fizzles out. So I'm just wishing that what I would like to see is that the International Day has some kind of spillover after the day itself. When people like us talk, or people share ideas, or you put together this kind of program, something comes out of it. So yes, it's a very good platform, it's a good initiative, it's a good drive. I believe we need to look at other countries and see what happens after the celebrations of International Day. There's always some kind of spillover. Something comes out of it and it follows up. It follows up in right across the strata, economic strata. I know International Women's Day has been screaming for equality for a while. I'm an expert in the maritime sector, and the International Maritime Organization now recognized the role of women and started promoting women. I'd like to see that sort of thing from the Nigerian perspective.
All right, talking about Nigerian perspective, I'm talking about the after the celebration, that one day that you've emphasized on from your submission, your insights right now. You have long years of career in politics. Let me concentrate on your political aspiration right now. How did you break through? Because, we understand that there is a gender equality in Nigerian politics today. How did you nurture your career of being a senator and, of course, representing your people? I must believe that must be a big challenge. Tell us.
First of all, I'm not a senator. I just contested to be a senator. Before I contested to be a senator, I contested to be in the Federal House of Rep. But this is because I've always been very interested in community development, and that snow dived into what is happening around you. And then I now realize I want to actually be part of decision making. How do I become part of decision making? I don't want to just follow the flock. I want to know what it takes. And what it takes really is you need to really go to your grassroots, get to be known amongst your people, and understand the systems. From that you now grow. So this is what I'll say. I showed interest. Any woman should actually get up and show interest, not sit at home and discuss, or nurture the ambition and not step out. And one of the things I did was I got involved in a lot of organizations, women NGOs, and we put together programs, always trying to encourage mentorship, etc., etc. So I developed a flair and a need and a curiosity. So my first escapade running for House of Rep, it was a big exposure to me, what it takes. And it really is not for the faint-hearted. If you really want to go into politics, until what we're fighting for gets through, it's not for the faint-hearted. I got in. There's also luck involved in it. You could get somebody who could see your zeal and wants to put you there, maybe sponsor you, because sometimes it's very financially challenging. So you might get a couple of people who will want to fund you and they believe you have it in you. You now go and try, but it's a terrain that is extremely precarious. It's not, I don't want to say corrupt or bad or wicked, but it's a very precarious terrain. So if you go in there and you want to compromise yourself, you probably will not get far. But we want to change that.
Okay. All right. Talking about changing that, because I believe that our culture and our tradition and stereotypes are some of the biggest challenges that we are facing, or women are facing in Nigeria today. You know, in as much as you've spoken about sponsorship, you know, how many women are exposed to that sponsorship that you've spoken about? So the Northerners, the Easterners as well, you know, believe that women should only be at in the other room, let me put it like that, or at home, you know, and not participate in representation when it comes to politics. I would like you to throw more light in terms of women who are aspiring, you know, to overcome all of these barriers, especially when it comes to our culture and tradition.
Okay, first of all, you saw my name, Ifeinwa, and then I'm married to Lagos, so I'm Wazobia. I don't want to agree with you about the women being held back in Anambra. Other states may be a bit more conservative, but Anambra women have been very prominent in politics from way back. Okay. And we had senators, we had House of Rep. The most number of female representatives in Anambra in the southeast is from Anambra, really. But that doesn't mean that it's good enough. It's not. There's nothing really standing in your way. The men may want to block you, but they don't do it openly. They do it in a very clever way. So you have to also know how to, you know, diplomatically get there and give them their dues. But I would encourage women. I've just come back from the last elections in Anambra, and I think I took a very brave step to stand for a party that is can I mention the party?
Of course.
Oh, I stood for senatorial seat under APC. APC and Anambra are like chalk and cheese, or water and cheese. But I said that this is a platform that's given me an opportunity, and I would like to go. I went under a PDP, and it didn't really work. But of course, there was a tsunami. You know what happened. Labour took the whole. But it was a lovely experience. It was tough, very tough. But I proudly said that I stood out there and said, because, why can you be with us? I said, this is where I want. This is what I believe in. You believe in yours, I believe in this. So, and I'm mature enough to be able to analyze and see who I think is going to bring some kind of sanity after then the romantics come. Because the country is really upside down, and we need somebody to turn it back up, and we need somebody who knows where the serpents are hidden. So that was my view. So women today should not give up, but start by knowing your community. I know where they sell fish in Onitsha, where I come from. I know where they go and buy lovely fresh fish from Omambala River. I've gotten to know all this. I grew up mainly in England. I came back, I went to university here. My travels were more going on a plane abroad, but when I decided that I want to be part of a community. So I think people should start being serious and stop staying in Lagos and talking about you wanted to do this, going to meetings and having interviews and not going to the grassroots. That's where it starts. All
right. Many thanks for that insight. And I'm happy that you actually mentioned the party APC that you ran with your last whatever. Yes. You know, you said in a recent interview, which I would like to quote, you said, this is my second attempt, and the first attempt was under PDP for Federal House of Representative, and you said that you had your baptism
of fire.
Baptism of fire. When
Every
I saw that on social
media,
yes, I learned that, and you said that you've learned a lot regarding all that happened there, especially when it comes to godfatherism.
Yes.
So my question now is, yes, if you are talking about godfatherism and how prominent then the PDP was, and you were able to join the APC party, you know, in 2017. I hope I'm correct. Yes. Are you saying, ma'am, that there's no godfatherism in APC, or what are the exact differences from PDP and APC?
Godfatherism exists everywhere, but some of us, I will tell you, I didn't have a godfather. Okay. First of all, what you go through to be a goddaughter is not really what I would like to do as a mother of children. I want to bring up with good morals. But I was lucky because I'm very, very prominent in the Nigerian maritime sector. Okay. And there's quite a few people who have a lot of faith in me, and they were able to say, okay, we'll put this together, take it and go. And then, of course, you know, women don't pay for forms. I had a lot of favor. And in APC actually helps women they like in the Southeast, the convener, the coordinator of the Southeast states, of the governor of Imo State, really sponsored everybody across the board.
Interesting.
Yeah, he sponsored the men and the women. So he knew where, if your shoe hurt here, they'll see what they could do. So I didn't experience godfatherism again this time round. I don't think it exists like it did before. Because in fact, the funny thing is some of those godfathers are now running. They now want to go in. So I don't think they should look at it. Then it was very prominent. It was, if you don't know or you don't have so behind you, you have to go and pay tribute, you have to do some pilgrimage, things that are below what I want to do as a politician. I would like to mingle with the people and go it. When they're spending millions campaigning and doing their posters and noise and everything, I try to do as much one-on-one meetings. But what I experienced here is not a baptism of fire. I experienced the tsunami. So they say different. The first one was a baptism of fire. I experienced a lot of treachery, and well, I don't want to talk about it. But this time round, we were set to go. But at least we were able to bring because APC was not acceptable in the East at all. But I think all parties have a chance to go everywhere in Nigeria, you know. Why should it be Igbo, Yoruba, this? No, that was wrong. So I experienced that, but the election day, I was so sure we could at least raise what we brought to the table to about 30 to 40%. Literally everybody that was shouting and telling, I don't know if you speak Igbo, that say, Ijebego, you're there, voted Labour. It was shocking. So that's what the tsunami, I experienced the tsunami. But I thank God. It's all well and good, all fair.
Fantastic insight right there. I wish that you can actually talk more about your experience so that other people who are aspiring to be in your position can actually learn from your experience. But, you know, for me, I just believe that education, you know, and of course exposure is still key to helping Nigerian women to liberate themselves. So, and I would like to quote a global data which I feel that on a year-to-year basis, the female literacy, they said, in Nigeria has increased by about almost 2% since 2021. So my question right now to you is, how is this affecting education with the rate at which women today are, you know, becoming a joker when it comes to leadership or political roles where they are not being given that opportunity? If we're still talking about, you know, liberating women and of course the equity of embracing equity in International Women's Day today. What's your take on this?
Yeah, that takes me back to what I was trying to say, that we're sitting here celebrating International Women's Day. After, so what, everybody goes home. Something should come out of it.
There must be a shift.
Yes, maybe people who initiate the celebrations should bring relevant NGOs together. What I found, I'll give a little example. When I talked to people, when I was going one-on-one, trying to talk to the young boys, young girls, women in the market, the boys knew who I was from the social media. The girls, most of the girls have these, they call them pincho, very small phones. The others had Androids. And then the girls were like, well, who is she, you know? They want a physical, analog type of interaction. Whereas the boys were asking me questions that, oh, wow, how did you know that? We saw it, and they're very sharp. Now, the girls, the percentage of girls in university, the youths that I spoke to, the boys were much more knowledgeable because they have access to the internet. Why don't those girls have the desire? Because they have not been sensitized. It's not a case of money, because a lot of those boys don't have phones. They go to the business center and sit down and browse. Girls are not interested. It's either what's the latest hair or this. There needs to be some kind of sensitization from the roots. So, and then the women, for example, I opened my phone the other day and I saw somebody selling agbalumo. I don't know what you call it in English, but it's agbalumo. She was selling it online and it looked so attractive, and I pressed, you know, more information and you could actually order. Now, those women selling fish in the market, they should know that. So this International Women's Day should be a platform to set up projects and run with it.
And I'm happy that you were able to touch on the fact that, you know, technology have come to change quite a number of things in how we do things. And of course, you know, it's very interesting to know that women of your age is actually on social media, because someone like me, I'm still struggling with quite a number, even though it looks as if I'm a pro, you know, but joining social media 3 years ago, I think that it has brought a lot of change to my work as well. So I agree with you in terms of how women need to evolve when it comes to the use of technology. But, you know, still talking about one of the things that you mentioned about how do we move forward, especially when it comes to the continuous awareness on International Women's Day for Women. I remember vividly, you know, that First Lady Aisha Buhari was at the Senate pitching for higher inclusion of women, you know, that at the time, as of last year, currently they were about 15%. And the policymakers did not actually approve such an inclusion, and I'm wondering if someone like her can actually leave a comfort zone to actually go and look for how to pitch for women in terms of inclusion in the political corridor. How can we still further fight for that advocacy that you are talking about now, with the use of awareness with different communities, not just on social media, knowing that quite a number of people of your age, or sometimes even some of the youth who don't have, or who are not exposed to internet, how do they help them in terms of creating more advocacy or more awareness?
Okay, the Muslims' guidebook is the Quran. The Christians' guidebook is the Bible. The country's guidebook is the Constitution. Forget about going to talk to those men who now, they're not ready to listen to you. They don't want you anyway to take over. Rwanda today, I think it's from 2003 when they had the war. It was circumstances that rendered them having to use women. But it is now part of their constitution that where there's so many men, there must be 2 women. It's a constitutional requirement. This is what I think we're going to need to fight for. And I know that we're getting closer and closer. After they rejected the request for the Senate to accept increase in women participation, they have gone back to the trenches, the women who are thinking, and I think all other women should raise their voices wherever they are, to look at the possibility of fighting. You know, if we come together and insist that the Constitution, not parties, because the parties have promised to give 35%, but they never do. So we should make it a law. So if you're a party that's not adhering to that law, we'll make sure that you're not voted into power. So you have women in politics, you have different, even I belong to women in energy, oil and gas. It affects us because we don't really have much participation in downstream or midstream activities because of this oppression of women. But if the Constitution says it, it's a case of you don't have any choice. They say, oh, they'll make mistakes. They said, no, but you could make sure you put a square woman in a square hole. Don't use that as an excuse. All right,
I have to interrupt your line of thought. Apology. We'll go on a quick break, and when we return, the conversation continues on oil and gas of women who are in the energy sector. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, glad to know you're still with us. In case you just joined today's show, today's conversation is about the International Women's Day. And of course, we're talking about leadership. We're talking about women in politics, and have been talking about a woman who is a role model in the leadership sector, especially when it comes to a political woman also in the oil and gas sector. And of course, you know, she's also a candidate under the APC for senatorial representation. Was yes, in Anambra State. And we have been discussing the International Women's Day and the theme, which is embracing equity alongside leadership, women in leadership, women in political setting. And again, I think before we go further, I think it's important for me to quickly open our phone lines. Remember that you can be part of this conversation by calling the studio numbers 080-988-77400, and of course it's showing on your screen right now. And of course we're streaming live from Facebook and on YouTube, both on Real Talk with Kike and, of course, on Silverbird platform. And I must say many thanks for all your submission thus far, Mrs. Akerele, for all that you've shared with us. But quickly, you know, because when we went on a break, before I actually go into the women in oil and gas, you know, you were talking about when you don't compromise yourself, it's obvious that you are not going to win. And the presidential election that took place on the 25th of February was a game changer, you know, with our political landscape, with so many upturns and surprises from the new party, which I like to refer as the, you know, the Messiah Messiah party who came to, you know, oppress us and the likes and all. But what are your comments thus far on the last election, knowing that the gubernatorial election is going to take place in the next few days? What's your take on this thus far?
It's one thing I must say is I'm happy that the voice of the youth are being heard now. And the youth are actually interested, because it's not a case of their voices being heard. It's a case of them being interested. The youths were never really, they couldn't be bothered. Election day was a day to go picnicking, relax with your friends, you know. So I'm very, very happy and impressed with the stimulation this has brought. I think everybody has their comments. There's too many emotions and sentiments for me to make any comment, because if I say anything I really do feel, I probably will be stoned by the time I leave this space. So, but I just want to mention that I'm very happy that the youths have woken up, because they have to take over and that they're learning. But Rome wasn't built in a day. It's a step-by-step issue. I think we should relax emotionally and not get too sentimental, and the abuses and I think I've even seen tribalism coming up, things that I really am not happy. They're not palatable. So I think we should, that's the only area I'm not happy about. But I'm happy that the youths have woken up.
All right, talking about the youth that have woken up, and still you know, touching light on the ills that happens in politics. You said now that there are certain things you cannot say so that you cannot be stoned and the likes and all of that. And of course, the ethnic divide that is happening at the moment. I would like to ask you, what are your expectations, you know, thus far with the gubernatorial election that is coming in, knowing that there were quite a number of change in that sector with how Labour Party took over Lagos State, so to speak. You know, I would like you to actually touch more on the expectations of this gubernatorial election that is coming up.
Not my expectations. You mean the general expectations? The
general expectation. And
the general expectations is really 50-50 or 70-30. We don't know. Okay. You see, that's where emotions have to be played down. Because some people believe, oh, it's one person, it's him or nobody. Some people believe, how dare you come here, how dare you this. Some people are middle of the road. Some people feel that, well, it's probably not time yet for this kind of, we're not that sophisticated enough for you to come with that sentiment. There's different types of emotions that's going on. That's why I said, let us do it objectively and look at the realistic picture as opposed to the sentimental and emotional picture. So I have my own opinions. Everybody has, you have. But I think the general, the youth came in, it's an avalanche, it's a movement, but they need to know when the movement becomes a sentimental, aggressive attack on the old. You need the young need the old.
We need each other.
You need each other. So yes. So let's leave it at that. You know, that's
okay. So if you are moving away from that, let's touch a little bit on INEC. I feel that, what do you think of INEC? And of course, I would like to touch on our sitting president right now, that's President Buhari, that he needs to do better in terms of the report on this next election. And of course, because of the negative comments, even you are trying to restrain yourself from saying certain things and the likes and all of that. You know, the experience of Nigerians generally, I feel that President Muhammadu Buhari for this next coming election has to say something. You know, particularly I feel that with regards to beavers and electronic transmission of votes, we've seen how it has failed when it comes to the presidential candidates and all of that. What's your advice for INEC?
My own personal experience with INEC is I do actually take my hat off for them, because the terrain they've had to cope with, the places they've had to go, the logistics, given our mediocre type of services. Mediocre meaning that the chairman may be efficient, but when you go down to the bottom, some people can leave the voting card somewhere and go somewhere. So I commend whatever efforts they put in. Now, you're talking about the beavers. The beavers' experience, I still believe there's an explanation. That's why there's courts. That's why there's a need. That's why I said leave the sentiments, leave the blaming, some people even call, sack him and sack him. Let everything run its course. Because luckily in Nigeria, the courts are extremely important. So people who are emotional and have judged, let us wait and see what comes out of it. Some people have jumped to conclusions without explanations. Just as Beavers didn't work, INEC, why didn't Beavers work? Bring the explanations. And I think it's something that people should get together and really let's have proper analysis of what happened, as opposed to this mudslinging. So I commend INEC because it wasn't easy. I also commend the chairman for his composure because I wouldn't take what he took sitting there, and it takes a very experienced, strong person to sit down and still continue with what was going on. So I don't want to pass any opinion, but I just want to ask people to let us take this one step at a time. It will be resolved. I'm sure it will be resolved.
Fantastic one right there. And I think that, I wouldn't have a comprehensive interview without me not, touching or discussing on your ambition of for Anambra North, and I would like to touch on that. What are your ambitions, your ambitions, and of course, what do you want to do for your people, in terms of voting you in and the kind of change that you can bring forward, especially with the technology today? How do you want to use technology to gain, mass people to your end? What do you have to say to this?
They didn't vote me in, they voted Labour in, but I'm ready to help work with whoever is there. I'm from Onitsha. You called me princess. My great-grandfather was the 16th Obi of Onitsha. And if you know Onitsha tradition, we came from Benin. And my great-grandfather was one of the sons, Ezechima, that left Benin and settled in Onitsha. So I'm a princess, but I don't use the name anyhow. I've been doing a lot of work with the Onitsha Professional Ladies Circle, with Ada, Ada Diorama, a group of Adas, to help in pockets like people, fisher women. I do that personally. I go to the riverside and I empower them. But the problem is, you empower them. It's not a very formal way. So half of them don't pay back. So you're just like almost throwing water away. They look at you as just bring the money. Let's get seedlings. It's not. I just want to make sure it's done in a systematic, proper way. Build cooperatives. I also have a very, very strong penchant. I have a thing about widows, because my mother was widowed at the age 30, and she had 5 of us. And I always look back at her and I look at women. The amount of young widows in Anambra, there's so many young girls that are widows. Their husbands, the lifespan is very short. They die, and I want to do that. I try to, but then again, you try to empower them with your personal money, it goes down the drain. So my wish was to set up a proper system, which I hope one day I could do. I thought if I went into Senate, I would get empowerment funds to go in and set up this sort of thing. Then you are calling me oil and gas. I'm not oil and gas. I'm maritime. My expertise is maritime. I know everything about maritime. But because the area that maritime functions well in right now is in the oil and gas sector, not anywhere else yet. So I was really involved in getting the Onitsha River Port working. And I saw it as an opportunity. If I became a senator, I could help the traders. Instead of carrying 1 container per lorry down from Lagos, we'll try and get it on flat-bottom barges through Warri Port. And they bring their containers to Onitsha Port. There will be a hub, there will be activities. There were so many little things I thought I could do if I was taken in as a senator. And of course, it goes across the whole of Anambra North. And that is still my ambition. And I hope that I could do it, even if not as a senator, maybe work with the senator there, probably go to him and see what he probably will be happy to work with me. I don't know. I'm just resting right now.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah. Well done, well done. Maybe you might also want to look at, partnering with, organization, international organization, or, some of the limited organizations that have the funding or the department that can help in terms of all of that. Not all the time we're relying on the government and the
No, not government, but your position. If you're a senator and you reach out, they answer you quicker.
I understand that.
It's so sad that that's how it is, but we can do the little we can do. But in oil and gas, I think you wanted me to talk briefly about it. It's I'm a member of the Women Energy, Oil and Gas. Correct. And that is because I was actually the chairman sectorial working committee on maritime in the Nigerian content NCDMB. Everybody knows it's a branch of the NMPC, and it's trying to indigenize shipping oil and gas activities on production into Nigerians. So we came in from the shipping sector. I was Director General of the Nigerian Chamber of Shipping, and we were on the consultative forum for shipping and logistics. So that's my involvement with oil and gas. So I got into, I started joining relevant organizations. I'm Women in Energy, Oil and Gas, and now I chair because with the new bill and NMPC becoming limited, there was a need for women. I'm trying to encourage women to go into the business of, even if it's just buy a small vessel, let's put money together, buy a $3 million vessel, and go a cap in hand to Shell and say, Shell, please, these are women, just give them some work. Let them bring your staff to the oil rigs. Let them bring, that's what we are trying to do. So that's my involvement in the oil and gas sector. But if you're getting involved in that sector, you've got to know more about it. And we are more like upstream, midstream. That's where there's a lot of business opportunities
that are in there. And I say, all the best with your career. And of course, okay, I understand that we have a caller on the line, Destiny, and many thanks for calling. What's your... Okay, apologies, we just lost the call. I guess we're just keeping the call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but again, I wish you the very best as you forge ahead in your career. And of course, I pray that God will continue to strengthen you and give you the longevity in Sparkling L to be able to perfect all that you want to, your vision and your goals in the communities
I hope I'm encouraging the young girls, don't give up. If I tell you my age, you say it's not true. Don't.
Please tell them.
No, I'm not going to.
But you still look good. You look good.
I try so hard to be good.
You're trying to challenge us.
I walk every morning. I try to eat as little. I try to stay. My mind is always active.
Water.
Let me tell you what I do now. Okay. My mind. I watch Korean movies. It's amazing. And they're subtitled.
So read it.
No, just Netflix.
On Netflix, okay.
They're so interesting. They're so philosophical. There's so much in it. And I learn a lot from how women behave. It's interesting. That keeps your mind. The secret is always being busy.
All right, apologies. We have Destiny calling back. Many thanks, Destiny, for returning the call. Apologies for keeping you waiting. What's your contribution on the topic at hand? Destiny, are you there? All right, I think we have to let that go. Please, no more phone calls. Again, I say many thanks for all your submission thus far. But before I let you go, there's this last segment of the show that I call Trending Stories. These are stories that affect you and I, that binds us together as Nigerians. And the first trendy, or the only trendy story that actually caught my attention, because sometimes you just have to be careful the kind of things you want to pick to come and discuss on the platform. And I think that the only trendy story that actually, caught my attention really is the fact that banks are in confusion when it comes to the Supreme Court versus CBN, with all that has been happening. I don't know if you want to give your submission first, but we've seen how Supreme Court have said that they should go ahead and start spending the money till December 31st, and the banks are saying that they're waiting for orders, from the CBN. What's your take on this?
Now, that's the law. It's the president that has to say. The Supreme Court has given their judgment, but it's the president that has to issue the implementation order, basically.
Okay. All right. For me, I just feel that I really can't blame the banks, if you ask me, because I feel that they are trying to, there's a need for them to abide by the rules and regulations that, you know, that binds them in terms of the directive of the Apex Bank. You know, that's my understanding of it. And I just feel that the Apex Bank has to obey and abide by the Supreme Court's ruling. Hence the reason why there's been a lot of back and forth between the Supreme Court and, of course, the CBN themselves. And the banks are not just, they are just being careful, you know, whereas the people, I mean, the Nigerians are a bigger, they're in a bigger, will I say dilemma, or, you know, with all that is happening right now in terms of whether they should collect the note or they should not collect the note. So you see some people rejecting the notes while some people are collecting the notes. So these are issues that we have to kind of follow the policy implementations in our society. Second is the fact that I feel that the Supreme Court has to be respected in a country and scenario where the Supreme Court, you know, order is respected. You know, we are in a country where people don't obey the rule of law. So there's bound to be some confusion and anarchy, you know, for lack of a better word right now. And I'm asking myself, the law has to be, you know, sacrosanct, if you ask me. So this is what gives the people confidence, the hope and the trust, you know, the fairness and equity that we are talking about in terms of embracing equity. And I feel that, you know, when the CBN disobeyed the Supreme Court, nobody believes in the law anymore. And that's exactly what is going on in terms of impunity, in terms of, you know, impunity must prevail, you know, and what people are abusing right now in terms of in their offices needs to stop. Hence the reason why I feel that this matter has to be thoroughly addressed to allow the fears and the confusions about the old notes and the new notes, you know, to come to rest. And CBN and federal government needs to stop this politics that is going on right now, because they've actually turned everything into politics. I think that's my submission.
Can I just give you, I told you again, sentiments and emotions can spill into trouble. Get a proper lawyer to explain. The procedure was not followed. The governors that went to the Supreme Court knew that they should not go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court would have said they're out of jurisdiction if they joined CBN. Now, if they had joined CBN on that case, CBN would have no choice but to implement what. But if they took it and they joined CBN in the case, Supreme Court would say it's out of their jurisdiction. It should have started from the process. It goes from Federal High Court to Court of Appeal to Supreme Court. But these were smart people that went straight to the Supreme Court, believing this kind of sentiment. There is no way the CBN can act outside instructions from the president. So it's the president that has to tell CBN. So blaming CBN and making CBN look like they are defying Supreme Court is the kind of impression that those who desire to give. There's a lot of issues that are just sent out there to cause, suddenly some people are going to start striking and standing with placards that CBN is defying the Supreme Court, which is not the matter. The Supreme Court took the case, maybe out of sentiment, and looked at it. They could look at it and decided to judge on it. But if CBN was not joined in the matter, because if CBN had been joined, I'm not a lawyer, but I've read very much between the lines. I believe that the Supreme Court would have said, oh, this is out of our jurisdiction. Go the process. Honestly. But it's something you need to keep. But we need to be very careful in going on emotions and saying that CBN is not doing what Supreme Court. CBN cannot work outside the permission of the president. So that's one thing we must understand.
All right, many thanks for your submission right there. And I think this is where we draw the curtains of the show.
Thank you.
And it's been
Thank you very much.
An interesting and awesome show. Courtesy, you are a resourceful guest, Mrs. Ifeanyiwa.
Adazong Akerele.
Akerele, yes, many thanks for all that you've shared thus far. Till I come your way next week, on Thursday, remember to catch me live on Inspiration FM 92.3 tomorrow, and follow me on my social media. There are quite a number of interesting things happening right there. My name is Kike Atanda-Owo. Bye now. Remain kind to one another.